Hello and welcome to episode 6 of E30 M3 Recreation. I'd like to start by saying a big thank you to all the new subscribers to the Carloop channel, and also thank you to everybody that's watching and liking and commenting on this series. In the last episode, Spencer showed us around the newly engineered E30 body jig. In this episode, the E30 is finally out of the dark corner. Engine and suspension has been removed, ready to be bolted onto the jig, so we can establish how straight this car is. If you haven't already watched the previous episodes, you can find the playlist here. We should perhaps remind ourselves what we're trying to achieve with this build. Spencer of BMP Conversions is creating an E30 M3 road car primarily, but that can also be used for track days by its owner, Enz Lister. With the base car starting life as a humble 318 coupe, and as we've mentioned in past episodes, being fitted with a fiberglass body kit rather poorly, Spencer will show us in a moment exactly how poorly. There will be an enormous amount of fabrication required, leaving no screw unturned. We're going to lob an E36 S54 M3 engine under the bonnet, utilise E36 M3 and Z3 suspension components under the car, slap on lots of carbon fibre and genuine M3 steel panels, occupy the interior with a half roll cage and racing seats, finished off with a big spoiler on its backside. It almost sounds simple when you say it like that, but actually, this is a very extensive build, which of course will be documented in this series. Now over to Spencer for the update.
So the suspension's off, the engine's out, and we're about to fit the car to the jig. But before I do that, I thought I'd just show you a little underside view of the actual car itself. So they completely glued the side skirts on using plasterboard fixings, so jointer plasterboard fixings. I believe that stuff goes on the corner. So you can see the inner wheel arch has just been completely packed full of fiberglass, sort of stranded material, a bit like the filler that you get in the tubs, just packed it full. So they've cut off that corner there all the way back and shortened it 2 inches. The same with this corner. I mean, this is what they think is acceptable to leave, you know, that the state of that. It's just going to rot the rest of the car out straight away. All that up there, look. And then you can see inside this wheel arch, I mean, there's no way that the outer rear quarter skin is attached to the body of the car strongly enough to give back the structural support of the original rear quarter panel. Again, you can see the outer skin rear quarter panel. If I come under here, you can see how they fixed it on. Look, wood screws and Tex screws all the way along. Bearing in mind that they've removed the original rear quarter panel outer skin, so with that removed, they've only put a screw every, I mean, what's that, 5 inches? So every 5 inches there's a screw which isn't holding it as strongly as a spot weld would be, and every, you know, on the original panel there'd be a spot weld every 2 inches, so automatically there's no strength offered by that at all. You know, the actual bodywork, how that's been fixed onto the car, is just disgusting, to be quite honest. Regards otherwise, apart from that, the actual underbody of the car, so the car that they used, the original E30, was in very good condition underneath the actual body. So you can see where the axle mounts all the way down the floor pan itself is pretty decent. The inner sills, so the inner sills of the car are in good condition. Again, those inner sills, a little bit of surface rust where the bush panel has actually been touching, but no holes. If I run down the actual sill itself, chassis rail, so you can see the sill itself. I know there's a footwell that probably needs some attention, but in regards to like the actual sills, the tunnel, that footwell wants to be welded properly. It's been done, basically bodged up. So, but in regards to the condition of the car, you can see down the sills, the inside of the sills all the way down the driver's side are very clean. So they actually chose a pretty good shell, in my opinion. I mean, the bottom of the chassis rails, sorry about that. bottom of the chassis rails itself, and then the bottom of those chassis rails. The only area which does need attention on this car, well, on the shell itself, is up in the bulkhead, which you can see is a very common place for them to rot out, just above the actual footwell, and it's below the battery tray. I will have to obviously weld that up, remove the pedal box from inside the car, and weld that properly. Weld all the strength back in the bulkhead, and then there's an area under here where they are very common to suffer. So again, that is the front of the wheel arch. If I come over here the other side, it's basically that bulkhead area again is very clean for one of these cars, and yeah, a little bit of work needed on the front of the front inner wheel arch. So not a massive amount to do on this shell, but we've got to make sure the shell is actually square still. So hence why we built the jig. We're off a straight car. We're now going to offer the car down onto the jig, remove the outer fiberglass panels, and then replace them with full steel panels, so the actual car has its full strength back from what it would have had from factory. The fiberglass body car is on the jig, so all the suspension removed, put all the bolts and threads in place, and then pull all the bolts down themselves. So you can see this suspension mount bolts, these two bolts left and right, I had to pull them down, which are from the top mount, and also one axle beam pin. So you can see I've got the pins left and right of the car. One pin, the passenger side, had to be pulled down, so the car had to be pulled down to the actual pin, and obviously this jig was made from a car which had done 1,500 miles. The rear end is pulled down now, so all the rear end is mounted onto the jig itself. You can see in here what we've got is the plates from the top mounts. Now what I am going to make next is a support from left to right of the top mounts. So from that top mount straight across to that top mount, I'm going to make that, and also I'm going to make another support on the sills halfway along the car. So from driver's sill to passenger sill across the top of the jig, so that the car can't sag in the middle while I work on it. This whole jig was manufactured off a 1,500 mile car, and the fact that this car itself has been fully cut about, and not in a very good way. All this rear end has been removed, so you can see all the back quarter panels, all fiberglass, all that is coming off next. So I want to make sure that the rest of the car is bolted to the jig before I do that. Make the sill support from left to right of the sill, and then possibly do the top mount support, front and rear, and then we can go ahead and cut this off.
In the next episode of E30 M3 Recreation, the bodywork teardown begins. Make sure you're subscribed and press the bell so you get notified when the next video goes live.
An engine which is just over 3 litres, so it's 3003 cc's,
right.
So over 3 litres, and certain other lightweight features. You may have seen these Batmobile ones with the fancy wings.
Yes.
That enable them to introduce those in saloon car racing, and they